So this is certainly going to go over well. Today what I wanted to do was talk about some of the extra thoughts that have been tossed out there the past few days in regards to the Vancouver Canucks and some guys that they need to re-sign. Now, firstly, we're going to talk about Filip Hronek because you had yourselves the SDPN Sports Twitter account go out there and tweet a video of the recent Agent Provocateur episode. Now, if you know Agent Provocateur, it's Adam Wylde and it's Alan Walsh. They've been doing the show together for a while now. It's a great, insightful look into the minds of NHL people and NHL, of course, agents. And Alan Walsh happens to be the agent for one Filip Hronek. So, Adam Wylde, he says it on the broadcast, I hate to pry, but I actually don't hate to pry. He ends up asking Alan Walsh about the Filip Hronek negotiations, and Walsh, in his very articulate fashion, goes out there and says nothing. He doesn't give any insight as to what's going on, but he does give insight as to his own perspective with the media, because he goes out there and says that a lot of people are talking about scoops and bringing things up and numbers, and Hronek wants this, he wants that, he should get traded, he's this and that. And Walsh says that everybody in the media that is talking all this talk doesn't really know what they're talking about, and there's a big laugh that is shared about it. Walsh is pretty much laughing at the negotiations and what everybody is saying about them. And so with this in mind, not just the video segment itself, but there is an overarching idea that the Vancouver Canucks and the Filip Hronek camp are thinking about this a lot. And if you wanted to go over to some of the analysis done, Grady said this about the Alan Walsh clip. It seems like Walsh met with the Canucks this weekend at the NHL Scouting Combine. Hronek and Walsh are laughing at the chatter and the reports around Hronek in the Vancouver market right now. They hold a lot of leverage in these negotiations. And the easy idea to say, in response to all of this, is, okay, if the Canucks don't really have much leverage, if Filip Hronek is in this spot where he can demand as much money as he can because he knows that other NHL teams would pay him that if they got the chance to pay him that, it's just Vancouver may not want to do that, then okay. That's the verdict, right? The guy should get traded. The guy should get offer sheeted. The guy should get this, that, the other thing. So, from this perspective, it does not really look like the Canucks and the Hronek camp will agree on something within the next few days. We might have to wait a little bit. Of course, though, that is assuming they do agree on some sort of a transaction, but I don't know, at this point, the dollar amounts that are being reported, I get it. Alan Walsh said that people like me, for example, on YouTube and social media, we don't know what we're talking about. He doesn't call out me in particular, but he's saying like the big collective body of Vancouver media and conversation people. He says that a lot of us are just kind of spitting whatever and it's not really all too accurate, which is like, totally fine. I'm not gonna take any offense to that. It's not like he's wrong after all, right? I'm just sharing my own opinions about whatever it is that we're talking about here on YouTube. But for Filip Hronek, he is such a good player at certain times that all of the perspectives are understandable. Hey, this guy was on pace for 60, 70 points for the first half of the year. Hey, he did show off that he is talented. Hey, he did finish off the year with still a 40-point marker, and that's noteworthy. That's worth a lot of money. Hey, this guy was Quinn Hughes' line mate the entire year, and he looked good for the most part in that spot. There is a lot of ammunition to get as much money as he could be asking for, especially since he is a right-handed defenseman who fits in the timeline of a team that is trying to be very competitive now. Hronek is going to have a few more years of being good at this point of his career. So while Adam Wylde says that there is no prying that he's going to go out there and do, Alan Walsh very equally said, yeah, I'm not going to give you any scoops here. Like, we're just saying what we're saying about the media, we're not talking about the negotiations themselves. Now, speaking about other free agents to be, this time in a UFA capacity, let's go out there and talk about this tweet made by Jay Fresh on Dakota Joshua. A team is going to pay Joshua a lot of money this summer. He's a nice player to have in your bottom six in your penalty kill, but I have a feeling that the 22 goals on 93 shots will bring that cap hit from reasonable to eye-popping. Dakota Joshua's player card is included. We can go out there and read this. He is a 53 percentile offensive even strength wins above replacement metric player. He is in the bottom half of the NHL, so only 42% even strength defensive zone wins above replacement. 81% on the penalty kill wins above replacement, which is awesome. He is in the top 29% of players on the PK in terms of taking penalties, 74% in terms of finishing, 71%. And you can see that the finishing and the goals are kind of in similar territories. He's in the 90 percentile wins above replacement number for goals. He is a top 10% player in the NHL when it comes to that. 60% in chances, only 15% though in shots. So what that says, if you're looking at his player profile analytically, is that Dakota Joshua is converting very, very well on a lot of these chances. He's not getting too many shots. He's not a very high volume shooter. He had 93 shots this season. That's barely over a shot a game, but he still had 22 goals on the year too, which is a really high shooting percentage. This guy is a conversion machine, and whether or not that's going to translate into every other season beyond this one, that remains to be seen. We've seen this with the Vancouver Canucks, different guys who have been net front presences, tap-in guys, rebound guys. The biggest one that comes to my mind right away is Andrei Kuzmenko. Last year he was shooting at a really high shooting percentage, but then regressed to almost a below average shooting percentage the next year, and he was really bad. He got traded, and then he started scoring a little bit more afterwards, but still, Dakota Joshua, I'm not saying that he's the next Andrei Kuzmenko. They're totally different players, not the same style at all, but when it comes to Dakota Joshua's own ability to put the puck in the back of the net, he has been above and beyond exceptional at just doing that. Scoring goals and converting on his chances. Not necessarily taking shots, though. Not necessarily being a high-volume shooting threat. He'll have, like, 2 goals on a night, but both of those goals will be his only shots of the game, for example. And JFresh goes out there and raises a concern about that, saying, yeah, because of that shooting percentage, because of the amount of goals that he had scored, and because that shooting percentage may not be all too sustainable long-term, maybe there is a possibility that a team goes out there and overpays for Dakota Joshua if he does go to UFA status, which, of course, I'm going to say that's totally fine. If another team wants to pay Dakota Joshua $3.5–4 million a year, then be my guest. It's good for Joshua to get that bag because he has been a project his whole career, from the Ohio State Buckeyes University over to the St. Louis Blues. He got traded from Toronto, and then he went over to Vancouver, and now he's here, and he's going to get a payday. That's awesome. Good for him. It's just, you know, selfishly, I would like to see him stay with the Vancouver Canucks, but hopefully at a reasonable dollar amount. JFresh then goes out there and replies, you know what I bet will impact Dakota Joshua's numbers big time? If a few teams think he is the next Zach Hyman. A guy who is really just a depth strength player, a guy who wasn't really supposed to be a top goal scorer, a guy who wasn't supposed to be the prime threat on whatever line that he was on when he was playing with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, but instead developed a certain set of skills and used those skills to excel on his next environment, being the tap-in guy for McDavid, not being the dig the puck out of the quarters and get it to Matthews for a shot and a goal kind of guy, but the guy who is supposed to be the threat. He is the guy in front of the net that you have to pay attention to, and if Dakota Joshua can fulfill some sort of a role like that, then we'll see. Most places won't have Garland feeding him tap-ins and slot shots so well, unless a team decides that they want Dakota Joshua on their first line, which is very freaky when you think about it, because if Dakota Joshua can capitalize on the skills that he had and just amplify that to first-line caliber production, then there could be a really scary player in the profile here of this guy. It's like what Rick Tocchet said earlier in the year. I don't think Dakota Joshua knows how good he can be. But after seeing this cup of coffee where he had the 20 goals and he was super good in the playoffs, so clutch and all over the place, now we're starting to say, yeah, this guy, if you give him a bigger role, who knows how much he's going to be able to grow. You could also say it goes the other way. If Dakota Joshua gets more minutes, he gets more responsibility, does he become worse? Does he get folded under the pressure? Does he collapse with more minutes? Does he only need a certain amount of time to be effective? Otherwise, he would be a little bit too stale. There are conversations to go either way, but I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section either way when it comes to Filip Hronek and Dakota Joshua. What are your opinions about these guys and whether or not they'll continue their careers as Vancouver Canucks? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.